RT guns are also one of those. Because this volume, which is phenomenal, some say it is about 30 to 50 kilometer on side and approximately 200 to 400 kilometers on the other side, depending on what is the size we are looking at, CT, CG, or whatever size we are looking at. So that is something we need to look at. So there is a chair here. So the command and control will be something which will be dependent on various phases of the battlefield. So you have to have a combination of the centralized command control and decentralized. At what level? It's a sweet spot which will keep changing. Similarly, combination of data centric and network centric. It's again a sweet spot because there will be technology eclipse which will be there. So you have to have how much reliance on the data, that is cloud, and how much reliance on the network. So again you have to look for a sweet spot. So when we talk about the DSOC, that's the style of command. Now you have to derive new areas or new kind of a lines of effort to have this DSOC. We need to examine that. As for the MSOC is concerned, MSOC is term which has come out from the Afghanistan war. So I don't look into it in a big way because that was meant for a different purpose. But as we go ahead, when we talk about the small teams will require MSOC will play an important role, but it will be digitally connected and remotely controlled. That will still have to be maintained. Moving ahead. So, what are the closer home? I have already said earlier that we have more than 2.5 front challenges. We understand what we are talking about, but what is important on the Western Front, the new areas which are coming up, is the relevance of creek area which is coming up in a big way, and we need to kind of create platforms for that. Semi-developed and riverine terrain, our speed will have to be much more than what we have been able to achieve. Because other places the FIBUA is playing a pivotal role, and either you go through the fighting built-up areas or you go through the riverine or the semi-developed area. So therefore, the mobility is a major challenge, and we do not have answers for it. We are looking for hop, step, and jump, or we are looking at spider movement. We are not sure, but that we need to look into. As far as Northern Front is concerned, the satellite photographs tell us it's a tankable terrain across, and of course, it is a super high altitude area. So the sustenance, logistics, and ability to remain coherent for a longer period for the crew also, that's a challenge. Siliguri corridor, we all are aware of it. Amphibious task force. As we enhance our role and we become, as it is, we are the fourth powerful army and second largest, ATF will play an important role, air-landed and transported operations. UN Charter 6 or 7. I was in Somalia with some of you sitting here, and of course the tanks were playing a pivotal role there also, and also play a relevant role in grey zone. Kinetic contact we are playing in any case, but the other three quadrants you have to still remain relevant even if not pivotal. So what does it involve? We need to discuss on those issues also. So if I have to look at few points to ponder, I'll begin with integration with new technology. So drone is a battle enhancer. It's not a decider, if I can say that, but it will be kind of providing you reach in the volume in terms of domination and sustenance. As far as AI is concerned, it is never human versus AI. It is again humans amplified by AI. What does it mean? That the creativity of a commander on ground, empathy factor, when to do what, and thereafter take the brownie points, problem solving, turn data into decisions. That is something which will still remain the kind of a forte of the human being. As far as 2026-27 is concerned, you are aware that 24-25 we declared a year of technology absorption. So moving ahead, we created now 26-27, of course, yet to announce this formally, but that is what we are working out, year of networking and data centricity. This is one field which we are not prepared. We are aware, we discuss, but we are not prepared. Therefore, we need to act faster on this issue. We have, of course, battlefield surveillance systems, CIDSs, infusion, then of course predictive analysis, then the open source analytics, NGF, lot many things have come into play. But how are they being controlled? How are they being kind of harmonized? That is something which we are still working on. Ops Sindoor 1.0 has given us some lessons, and we came out as a winner. But always we must look at what are the lessons we have drawn, and for Ops Sindhu 2.0 or any war for that matter, we should be able to kind of harmonize these issues before we move ahead. As far as electronic warfare concerned, it is a protection layer. It is an armored protection layer, if I can say that. So the way you have a reactive armor and other things, as far as EW is concerned, this is also a protection layer, and this will have to be inherent in the platform which is being produced hereafter. As far as the evolving tactics or so-called TTPs and doctrines are concerned, there are two parallel ways of waging war, which is in the three quadrants which I have discussed earlier, other than the contact and kinetic. Non-contact is the LRV, electromagnetic, that is OSIMA, you can say that, US, counter-US, and in non-kinetic it will be IW, that is the cognitive domain. Who is going to control that? Now that additional responsibility will be coming on those leaders who are controlling the CC and above. They will have to look into it. So main lessons drawn from the Ukraine war, if we look into, I am just looking at three lessons as of now. Combined arms operations at every level, whether it is a company squadron level, or it's a, let's say, a regiment or a battalion level, or even at the higher level. So the synergy which is required, or if I can say the combination which is required at the lowest level, and then it has to move up. Presently we are trying to do it at the highest level. And what I have said earlier, that earlier we used to have 10 to 12 days to find out and familiarize with each other. Now those days are not available. That's why we have gone in for Rudra, so that within 6 to 12 hours we should be able to take on the task which we are earmarked for. The second is asymmetric tactics and employment of battlefield equivalent. And even Prime Minister during the CCC has raised this issue. Do we require platform versus platform, or that is platform to counter a platform, or you require a kind of some equipment to counter a platform? That is something, a question which we always need to keep discussing. And I'll tell you the reason, because the battlefield equalizer means use cheaper domain effects, cyber, EW, drones and fires to shape battlefield and conserve mechanized forces for decisive action. The decisive action still remains with the mechanized forces, but what you require is the depth to it, so that it is conserved for the particular task which is meant for. And you have cheaper options to make kind of orchestrate offensive action which you are required to carry out. And of course the third is civil military integration, because the wars are going to be costly affair, and therefore we need the help of the military civil fusion, of course, required in terms of whether it's a digital or a physical infrastructure, technology, logistics and citizen warriors also. So everybody has to play a role. I will not cover much on this. Now Jim Mattis, paraphrasing Oscar Wilde, said, "Doctrine is the last refuge of unimaginative." What it means, what I'm looking at, that black and white is not the answer. If you're looking at the answer that one will be able to give you this solution, it's not possible. Because the warfare is changing so fast. So every terrain, every timing, and what capability of enemy is there, actually you have to decide your own course of action. So it's only a guideline. So it is fixed but flexible. Adaptable to long-term war while ensuring flexibility to win short-term battles for cumulative impact. I'll say again, adaptable to long-term war while ensuring flexibility to win short-term battles for cumulative impact. So it's already been discussed. I'm sure that the kind of concentrated application will not be feasible nowadays, and dispersion will be order of the day. So I'm just trying to explain the same thing. So it is simultaneously promote unity of effort in individual judgment, that's what I've just said. So smaller size, urban and hybrid will have to be phased through. Integration at the CT and CG level on the line of Rudra. And of course, if I can question or if I can suggest, 45 tanks since World War II, I think a time has come to trade few tons of steel for loiter munitions, drones and unmanned ground vehicles. The time has come. We need to look into inwards. Of course, I have been trying to kind of cajole PP, and every time he comes, he is the only one whom I offer a cup of tea. I am sure he will consider some changes into it. Because protection is protection, it may not be steel every point of time. Artillery, as you are aware, has already changed, where we have Shaktiman and Divyastra. Infantry has already changed, where we have peeled off certain so-called considered options which were there and given Bhairav and Ashni. Mechanized recce and support have now planning to convert to Shaktiman. Air defense, AD is going to be not available in the future. AD is not available. Why? Because the kind of air littoral concentration which is there, we are looking at, let's say a 500 kilometer frontage, if you are talking about 5 to 10,000 of flying elements which are there, then the AD is not going to be available. If that be the case, then how do we look into it? As far as infantry is concerned, I've already said, it's not going to be available. If it's not available, what are the alternate means to look into? Because every time we say that, okay, if it is there, we can do this. But keeping in view the limitations which are there, whatever is fixed, it is fixed. It's not going to increase hereafter. So we need new ideas. Moving ahead, upgrade survivability. So upgrade survivability, when we talk about, of course, in the maneuver warfare, Gen 3 is visible, vulnerable, but most valuable. Visible, vulnerable, but most valuable. If that be the case, so of course we have active and passive protection system like Israel Trophy and Russia Arena. Signature management of thermal, acoustics and radar. All we need to look into how to go about it. Modularity, or in terms of replacement, sensor, armor and weapons. Unmanned system, that will have to be order of the day, and as you are aware that a lot of discussion has already taken place, and by the time we reach the time of 2032, we will be moving ahead on this in a much better manner. Integrated decoys. This is something again, means हर यात्री अपने सामान के लिए जिम्मेवार है. Now there will be no one who will be telling you how the deception and decoys have to be done. If you wish to protect yourself, you please carry your own baggage. So decoys also will have to be carried by the mechanized forces themselves. Backup communication, alternate navigation and EM hardened. As far as the effective IFF is concerned, complete visibility is something which is mandatory because there are so many players in the arena today. If that be the case, of course, in the EP25 we are looking for some solutions, and hopefully we should be able to get that solution by next year. The fourth issue is the future of the hybrid mechanized warfare. It's lighter, faster and networked, unmanned. It is integrated part of a digital kill web or a smart kill chain. This is shortened and authentic. Means the kind of information which you will be getting will be multiple, some semi-authentic, some authentic. The orders which you will be giving will be not only 4 kilometers, it will be 400 kilometers. If that be the range you have to cover, then the credibility, the ethical issues and all these issues fall on the, if I can say that, the shoulder of that same mechanized force commander who is going to lead that particular aspect. Self-contained to cover void of AD and infantry. Logistics. This is again because the mechanized warfare depends heavily on the logistic support. So pre-stocking, pre-location, drone supply, QRF supply, all this something will have to, when I am saying QRVs, that is quick reaction force vehicles which we are talking about. These something will have to be looked into. As so coming on the fifth issue is the human resource, adaptive leadership to be able to lead each element of the so-called CBG. Creative and imaginative to lead the complete CBG in an imaginative manner. I'll just say as far as the officers and the JCOs are concerned, that officers in any unit are able to take a particular outfit from good to great or mediocrity to greatness. But to sustain their greatness, the second layer is something which is important, and Indian Army today is focusing on the second layer, the junior commissioned officers. Because they are able to provide you what Jim Collins says, build to last. A unit will last in case it has good JSUs. A flip from good to great is possible by the officers. But if it has to sustain itself, then the JSUs have to play an important role. Because the four pillars of greatness are vision, passion, actions and principles. Interpretation has to be done by officers, but implementation has to be done by the junior leaders. And of course, like I've said, be able to operate in technology eclipse. So what Indian Army is doing as of today, you are aware that we have already declared decade of transformation. What is it's all over the media, I have already explained that in a big way, not over that. But it is also age of acceleration. This transformation is also age of acceleration. Thereafter, from 32 onwards, it's a era of consolidation. So what it means that we are looking at accelerate as much as possible, have flexibility or think imaginative as much as possible, and remain in the race in comparison to the other two adversaries who are there. if I can put it in a short form, change must come with the velocity of relevance. I am not using the word speed, I am using the velocity of relevance. What it means that we are very clear that which direction do we have to go. But is the speed enough? And major challenge for any platform-centric force, that's a major challenge. Whether it's a ship, aircraft or tank or any mechanized platform. For it's a major challenge. So are we doing enough or we need to work faster? If that be the case, have we been able to empower the industry for that? Is the academia looking at those kind of a design management which is being looked at by the, let's say the Navy, they have a design section. Are we having that kind of a thing? Those things we need to look into. So if I look into 2028, 2030, 2032, in 2028 I look at kits modification and somehow if I can say that the makeup or kind of empowering a platform. As far as 2030 is concerned, I am looking at a platform in terms of FICV, FRCV or whatever is coming, that is integrated units and subunits, which is order of the day, which will have to come by 2028. And of course, thereafter I am looking at 2032, the MDO formations, not the mechanized formations. It will be a MDO formation. The mechanized will be part of it, because others will also play an equal role, if not more. We have carried out some trials of the ab initio CG, of course, because of the equipment management, HR and cohesion issues, it's not progressed. But after 3 to 4 years, I am sure that will have to be done, even if we may not be finding it pragmatic today. As far as surveillance and targeting is concerned, I can only say that 50 kilometers is only the start point. In my wisdom, 200 to 400 to 800 kilometers I am looking at, and we will be empowering the mechanized forces accordingly. When I say mechanized forces, the mechanized formations. As far as the strike troop, FM troop and LM platform, it's already been worked out by the DG Armored Corps, but we need to work more on this. Like I said, we need to trade some kind of a protection in terms of steel to other kinds of protection. I would like to just say that here, when Prime Minister briefed us on addressed us on 15th September 25 in Combined Commanders Conference, he talked about the internal culture, that we need to break the silos. He talked about the tri-service, but I must take this opportunity by virtue of being the BM of the Armored Brigade by the Colonel Stocks of 21 Corps and so on and so forth, and commanded 9 Corps, where when I used to say happy Armored Day, so the Armored Corps Day, so the prompt reply used to come, you are commanding more than a division of Armored there. So it goes to for you also. So what I am saying, I have that right to say so, that we need to break the silos. And the silos have to break from the schools, from the doctrines, and from the practices. How? We need to sit together and work out on that. High synergy has to be order of the day. And the traditions which are there, which may have been for a particular service, need to kind of converge for a common tradition in future. Call for JAI, jointness and integration, Atmanirbharta and innovation are non-negotiable. So whatever solutions we are looking at, we need to work in this framework of JAI. And that is what we need to look into from today up to 2032. So what I am looking in future is cavalry and quoting Unit X was finding it very difficult for the tanks to come in. It is Unit X, I am not saying, and it is published in 2024. But today, like Sir said that he openly welcomed the tank, that's a good thing. So moving ahead, cavalry welcomes the tanks or the armored welcomes the mechanized forces, mechanized welcomes the armada, and armada will welcome the MDO formations. This is how I am looking at the future. So, to conclude, I would just say that there's a lot of things to be done. We do not have answers immediately, but we need to move ahead, and this is the time that the army has decided to change and agreed to change, and this change has not come from top. It has come from the middle level. If the middle level is ready to change, then we must all celebrate, because it rarely happens, otherwise it's always top down. So this is a big pleasant surprise, and we must cash on it. So I must thank Lieutenant Ashok Mehta, Chairman, Cavalry Officers Association, and the Armored and Mech Fraternity for inviting me to the seminar. I wish the multi-domain leaders and orchestrators great success in the endeavor. Thank you very much.